Hello, what is up YouTube? It is Brutal Chaos. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Big announcement. I'm also still going to be doing reactions, of course, and I'm still going to be reacting to Warhammer 40k. But every other video I'm going to start doing is going to be something different than Warhammer. That way we don't burn out on Warhammer. So continue to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Please check out the other videos. Like I said, it will really help me out. Like I said, we're trying to grow out here on this big YouTube platform. And guys, thank you for all the love. Like I said, man, smashing that like button, etc. Like I said, if you want to see more of me, I do stream on Twitch and my socials and all that stuff to the Reapers of Fate. All my stuff down below. So let's pull this up. Guys, let's freaking do this.
On many worlds across the galaxy, curious structures have been found carved of black-hued stone, the forgotten remnants of some long-dead race. This is hardly unusual, and they are noted without much excitement among countless other ruins left by countless other races. Occasionally, expeditions will be sent to learn their secrets, and hidden entrances uncovered to vast complexes located far beneath a planet's surface. Sometimes, these parties return with exotic trinkets or half-believed tales. Sometimes, they do not return at all. Few across the galaxy recognize these sites for what they truly are, and the threat they represent. Fewer still might know how it came to be that one of the first races to set forth blindly into a galaxy of darkness would be damned for eternity, transformed into a tortured race of soulless constructs, known as the Necrons. Neither the gods nor galaxy were kind to the Necron tier. Millions of years before humanity evolved to sentience, in an ancient formation of stars on the outer edge of the galaxy, they raised their civilization under the torturous light of a blighted sun.
Just gonna pause real quick, rewind a little bit so I don't cut them off. Remember in another video hearing about how the Necrons fought against another faction, and it was like a big war. I can't remember if it was the orcs or I mean, I'm sure they fought a lot, but it was one in particular I can't remember. I'm sure it'll hit me in the head at some point. Guys, enjoying the video so far for sure. Let's continue.
Civilization under the torturous light of a blighted sun. Endlessly scoured by piercing solar winds and terrible radiation, the lives of the Necron tier were short and uncertain. Their bodies were consumed by agonizing cancers and constant illness. Their existence was defined by overwhelming loss and grief. Cities were built
That's really depressive.
in honor of the dead and the living who wandered their streets, relegated to brief caretakers of vast sepulchres and ornate tombs. Driven by the desperate hope that they might free themselves from the cruel maladies of their sun, the Necron tier set out to carve an interstellar empire. Bereft of psychic powers, the Necron tier were unable to pierce the immaterium, and instead relied upon slow-moving torch ships, carrying enormous stasis crypts. Though arduously slow to realize their dream, the Necron tier were able to colonize much of the galaxy. Tragically, however, they could not rid themselves of their physical frailty, for even on rich, unspoiled worlds, the curse of their homeworld left them withered and short-lived. It was a terrible irony, then, that of the few other civilizations present in the galaxy, they should encounter the beings known as the Old Ones. Ancient even to the Necron tier, the Old Ones had long since conquered the burden of mortality and now were gifted with eternal life. Yet it was a gift they refused to share, and the entire Necron tier race was left to fester in jealousy and resentment. The unity that had propelled them into space was shattered, and competing Necron tier dynasties warred with one another in a conflict that threatened to destroy their entire race. Had these wars of succession been allowed to continue, the Necrontyr might have been yet another footnote in galactic history, a civilization that rose, burned brightly and briefly, only to be extinguished.
In this Warhammer world, boys, there's just so much negativity, but it's like so much war. Like I said, there is only war, literally. So pick your poison.
But the Triarch, the ruling council of three that governed the Necrontyr race, realized that only an external enemy had the power to reunite the dynasties and revive the spirit of their civilization. The choice was obvious. Only the Old Ones presented a credible threat, and the jealousy and resentment of the Necrontyr had been kindled into a burning rage. Successionist dynasties were offered amnesty. The Necrontyr reunited under the rule of the Triarch, and armies and fleets were sent to fight a war they could not win. In contrast to the Necrontyr, the Old Ones were the masters of the Immaterium. Through the use of warp gates and the extra-dimensional webway, they constantly outmaneuvered the plodding forces of the Necrontyr. Despite their superior technology, they were little more than an irritation to the Old Ones, and faced with an invincible enemy, the dynasties fell back into civil war among themselves. Having only accelerated the complete collapse of their rule, the Triarch again searched for salvation. Competing accounts differ on how the Necrontyr first encountered the Catan. Some claim they were discovered in the heart of a dying star, while others say that the burning hatred the Necrontyr held for the Old Ones acted as a type of beacon. Regardless, the power of the Catan was incalculable. Beings of incredible raw energy, the Catan dwarfed entire worlds, their consciousness too vast to even comprehend. That the Necrontyr could even communicate with them was a miracle, and the oldest dynasties actively courted their favor. Through an eldritch type of living metal, the incorporeal forms of the Catan were gifted bodies to inhabit in the physical realm. Thus clad, their consciousness and power was focused, and they soon came to delight in the pleasures available within the material universe. One such Catan, acting as a forerunner to the coming of his brothers, appeared before the Triarch. It claimed it and its kind, like the Necrontyr, had fought a war against the Old Ones, a war they had lost, and now were hidden across the galaxy, eagerly awaiting allies who might help bring that ancient race to account. It promised the Necrontyr everything they had wanted: unity, power, and most importantly, the secret of immortality.
Immortality. That's crazy to think about.
With the pact between the Necrontyr and the Catan sealed, the Star Gods revealed the form that immortality would take. Enormous bio-furnaces were constructed and roared through the days and nights. What arcane procedures took place within are best forgotten. But while it was the people of the Necrontyr race who entered them, it was something else entirely that emerged. In place of diseased and frail bodies came shells of living metal, and the awful truth of the pact made clear. Through their transformation, the Necrontyr race had perished, stripped not only of their flesh, but of their souls. Yet while the price had been...
So they went full metal Terminator status. That's freaking insane, bro.
Steep, every promise made by the Catan was fulfilled. Clad in armor that only their most terrible injuries could destroy, the newly born Necron race and their Catan allies wrought a terrible vengeance upon the Old Ones. Even as their last strongholds were broken, and even as the webway was penetrated and invaded, the Triarch had realized the deception played upon their own people. Where they had once feasted on the energy of the stars, now the Catan feasted upon living souls. The Star Gods had gorged themselves on the Necrontyr, and brought to the galaxy a war of such horror that even the victors would find no triumph.
This is almost as messed up as the freaking tyranids, bro. If not worse.
In an act of perfectly calculated betrayal, The Necrons waited until the Old Ones had been wiped out, and then turned on the C'tan in their moment of victory. Weakened and arrogant as the result of their long struggle, the C'tan were shattered by the unimaginable energies of the living universe, focused into weapons too mighty for even the star gods to endure. While the C'tan were a part of a fundamental fabric of reality, and therefore impossible to destroy completely, their shattered forms were bound within thousands of smaller fragments, scattered across the galaxy, so they might never reform. The C'tan had been shattered, but the time of the Necrons was over. The cost to their civilization had been immense, and powerful psychic entities, unleashed during the wars against the Old Ones, threatened to scour the galaxy. Younger races, created by the Old Ones to aid in their war, were also rising, with the wrath of the Eldari, in particular, impossible for Necrons to stand against. The Silent King, first among the Triarch, and the only member of that council who survived betraying the C'tan, gave one final order. His people were commanded to sleep, to wait for a time in which even the great power of the Eldari had withered, and the Necrons might return to rule the galaxy. With this order fulfilled, the Silent King vanished, fleeing into the intergalactic void, seeking solace and penance for the terrible suffering he had inflicted upon his people. On countless worlds, the skeletal constructs of the Necrons lay dormant. They slumbered through the aeons as the galaxy healed from the wounds wrought during the war against the Old Ones, and new civilizations rose to fill the void left by their demise. But time wounded the Necrons in ways even their ancient enemies could not. Shifting tectonic plates crushed Necron strongholds on untold planets. Stars went supernova, consuming tomb worlds in their death throes. And everywhere, primitive races fought over the scraps of Necron territories. Even tomb worlds left untouched have felt the decay of time. Cascading failures in stasis crypts destroyed billions of dormant Necrons, while others have been affected by a slow madness that threatens to override their original programming. Even the last order of the Silent King has not been precisely followed. The great awakening of the Necron race has not occurred in unison, but in fitful starts across the millennia. Errors in circuits and protocols have enacted the revivification of tomb worlds far earlier than
I have a feeling they're going to come back.
intended, with some said to have stirred in time to see the great crusade of the Emperor of Mankind, the cataclysm of the Horus Heresy, or the endless wars of the Age of the Imperium. While many have risen, most lay dormant still. The first skeletal machines encountered by the younger races were misidentified either as mindless constructs, another trivial Xenos race on par with the Hrud or Kroot, or most curiously, as chaos androids constructed by an extinct subspecies of abhumans. Of all the great powers in the galaxy, only the remnants of the Eldari understand the full nature of the Necron civilization. All Necrons, regardless of their rank or station, have had their flesh replaced with necrodermis. This living metal possesses the extraordinary ability to regenerate damage nearly instantaneously, flowing back together as if a liquid to repair even the largest gashes or tears.
Dude, everything is so freaking overpowered, bro. Like, they can repair themselves. Like, there's freaking millions of orcs. It's like, that's why there's only war, man. It's like, it's just non-stop. It's crazy.
Given enough time, even the most terribly damaged Necron constructs can be repaired, or its consciousness transferred to a new body. Only a select few Necron constructs, however, possess a consciousness in the way the Imperium or the other races of the galaxy might understand it. The transformation of the Necron tier race stripped the intellect, self-awareness, and personality from all but the most strong-willed. These individuals, often the leaders or elite of Necron tier society, were given the very finest necrodermis bodies, but even they are pale shadows of their former selves. The professional soldiery were given comparatively crude bodies, while the common citizen received whatever remained. These tortured creatures are numb to all joy and experience, bound solely to the will of their masters, and requiring constant direction to fulfill their purpose. Even so, a tiny spark of their mortal selves remain, just enough to torment them with memories and echoes. During the time of the Necron tier, their civilization embraced a rigid hierarchy. While split between various dynasties, all were ultimately subject to the will of the Triarchy, a council of 3 pharaons, the greatest and most powerful leaders of their race. The head of this council was known as the Silent King, for he never addressed his subjects directly, but rather through the pharaons who ruled alongside him. The short lifespan of the Necron tier ensured that members from many dynasties were represented within the Triarch, or held the position of Silent King itself. Following their biotransference, the hierarchy of the Necron tier became absolute with the Necrons. Completely subservient to the will of the Silent King, even the pharaons were forced to follow his directives through command protocols embedded in every Necron mind. So ashamed by his failures, however, the last Silent King severed these protocols upon his withdrawal from the galaxy, and ultimate authority had been split across the various dynasties that remained. Pharaons and other ranks of Necron overlords have awoken to find themselves free of the Silent King and able to pursue their own agendas.
That's even more scary, because then they're just going to do whatever they want.
Combined with aberrations in their programming that leave some overlords struck by madness, the actions of the Necron race are eclectic almost to the point of randomness. The Necron lords of some dynasties display a splendid adherence to honorable conduct, sending forth emissaries and diplomats. On the battlefield, they adhere to the spectacle of honorable war, rigorously applying their ancient codes of battle. Other dynasties have embraced treachery and terror, utilizing psychological warfare, deception, and assassination. More still focus their attention inwards, pursuing the systematic extermination of any life forms who interfere with their affairs. While these acts are extraordinarily diverse in their extent and method, all are directed towards a single common goal: the restoration of the Necron dynasties to rule over the galaxy. Yet with the Triarch long destroyed, most tomb worlds still dormant, and others inflicted with madness, there can be no grand strategy. Each tomb lord pursues whatever course he deems most suited to circumstance. Some have sought to dominate nearby threats and sow terror on alien worlds. Others have stockpiled raw materials, or prioritized the recovery of cultural treasures or artifacts.
Told you, they're going to come back, man, and they're going to do what they want.
A few have even begun the search for organic species whose bodies might be suitable vessels to reverse the curse of biotransference and bring about the return of the mortal Necron tier. When committed to battle, the Necrons typically strike with little warning. A Necron lord will have a great variety of forces at his command, but will typically rely on soldiers known simply as warriors or immortals, which made up the ancient armies of the Necron tier. Lichguard, Deathmarks, and Praetorians are used more sparingly, while the largest Necron constructs are reserved for wars of annihilation and vast interstellar campaigns. Their highly advanced technology means that their armies typically need only march forward, and an overwhelming, inexorable advance has become synonymous with the Necrons. Despite this, they are capable of more nuanced tactics when necessary, and there exist a variety of Necron constructs capable of infiltration or rapid maneuver. But the Necrons' greatest advantage in combat remains their near-indestructible necrodermis bodies. In the rare instances in which their armies have been destroyed, or the tide of battle has turned against them, every Necron construct has simply disappeared from the battlefield, phase shifting to some other place or reality, so that they might repair their wounds only to re-emerge once more. The method by which the Necrons achieve this remains unknown. They likely retain some access to the webway, forcing their way into the ancient labyrinth through the use of eldritch portals known as dolmen gates.
So they go to these gates and they come back and they're like, "You thought you killed me? Psych!"
Necron starships have also been occasionally sighted, but never in great numbers. Whether the Necron fleet did not survive their long slumber intact, or they have the means to conceal their movements, likewise remains unknown. To the Imperium of Man and the other great powers of the galaxy, the Necrons remain a shrouded presence. Terrible when roused to battle and cryptic in their actions, but hardly a major presence. With the fall of Cadia and the spread of the Great Rift across the galaxy, there are precious few resources to devote to the search of the rumored tomb worlds or the mysteries of some long-dead race. But as the time of ending begins across the galaxy, it is becoming harder and harder to ignore that tomb worlds are beginning to awaken at an ever-increasing rate. Certain patterns are starting to emerge.
You're gonna come back and it's gonna be a big war.
Evidence that the power of the ancient Necron Empire is beyond even what the Eldari remember. As the great hive tendrils of the tyranids sweep across the galaxy, it has been noted that even they avoid specific worlds. On Mars, an entire region has been quarantined, ostensibly due to some ancient contamination, but in truth, because a fearful entity dwells beneath it. A so-called Dragon of Mars. And despite the rampant spread of the ruinous powers and other warp-spawned horrors, there are curious places in the galaxy where even the overwhelming howls of the warp have been silenced. Places where the silence is far worse than the screams. Some have even claimed that the stars themselves whisper of the Silent King, that its exile is over, and it walks among the dynasties once more. If the Great Awakening is finally at hand, then the remnants of the Eldari, the vast host of the Imperium, the Orc hordes and Tyranid hive mind, even the gods of chaos themselves, might finally learn that for all their fearsome power, this galaxy was never truly theirs. That they are merely trespassers, whose time is finally over.
That was weird. I've never seen that happen. Oh.
Specific worlds.
Oh.
Allow me to.
Oh, okay. Part of the video. I was like, wait a second. I was like, what in the world? Okay.
Oh, wonderful. I was concerned
I was like, what's wrong with my PC?
I might have missed you. Please allow me to express my fulsome appreciation of your investigation, as you call it. Thoroughly researched and well spoken. Delightful from beginning to end. A few errors here and there. A few omissions. I had hoped that I or my collection might warrant inclusion. But you make cuts for time. I entirely understand. I am something of a seeker into mystery myself, and I feel a sense of professional courtesy to inform you that the presence of your institute has not gone unnoticed here. You are watched by some of whom you are already aware, and by others of which you are not. It is so rare to find those who might appreciate my work. It would be such a shame to see you become an agent of disorder. Until then, feel free to visit any time. There is always a place for you here.
Investigates
That was insane, man. That was the freaking Necron Dynasties, man. That was cool how they had it at the end. At first, I was like, what's wrong with my PC? But guys, man, that was awesome. The Necrons, scary. That's what I was saying right there. Like, they're up there with the tyranids. Like, I feel like the tyranids would even avoid them. Like, it's not even their galaxy. If those things can just keep repairing and coming back, and they're starting to come back, man, it's over. Like, it can go so many ways, man. So we'll find out, I guess, eventually. So, guys, more Warhammer 40k, like I said, more coming to the channel. My channel is just basically going to be a reaction channel. I might upload like a little music here and there, I don't know, in the future, but mainly reactions. So guys, if you want to stay in tune to more, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. You know what to do. Like I said, guys, you have been showing so much love, and if you want to see more of me, all my links in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.